Hello people, Gnmpolicemata here. So first of all, happy 2017. Today I'll be bringing you a video talking a bit about the 3DS and Vita hacking scenes because they did develop greatly this year, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the community. So GBA Temp, well, it's where I spend most of my time online in online forums and all of that. I don't go to Wololo all that much because I usually go with Tapatalk and Wololo doesn't support it. It's a shame, but maybe that support will come in the future. No? Okay. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. So, let's talk about the current state of the Vita scene. As you may know, it really grew this year, with the release of HENkaku in July. Since then, a lot happened, with the Gekihand competition starting as to try and get people to develop software for the console. We got things like Lua Player Plus Vita, ported to HENkaku, we got a Quake port with working multiplayer and mod support, we got RinCheat, a cheat engine plugin used in games somewhat similar to the PSP's CW Cheat plugin, native emulators for various platforms such as the GBA, GBC, PS1, the Amiga, etc. We got a Moonlight port, and well, we did get dumpers like Vitamin and My Dump tool, which allows us to dump games and run backups and use plugins with those games. Though now with Tyhand we can do that even without the games being dumped. We also got an offline installer for HENkaku and HENkaku, so we don't need to rely on the servers to be up once we set that up. That it's good because you don't need an internet connection to use HENkaku or HENkaku. I myself dedicated some time of mine to the Vita scene. Well, I do make sometimes some very minor apps. I'm making a small game currently, and I've made a Moon Whitelister, which was me trying out LPP Vita and using it to achieve the same effect of the Vita TV Whitelister. Fortunately, Gnmpolicemata once again came to the rescue with Anti-Blacklist, which does the same but in a permanent fashion as opposed to having to do it every boot like Vita TV Whitelister and Moon Whitelister have to do. Seriously, even in Gekihand, Gnmpolicemata developed a significant number of apps. RinCheat SE, for example, Lua IRC, the Easy RPG Player Interpreter port for that plays RPG Maker 2000 and 2003 games, which runs great. In fact, this program was also ported to the 3DS by him. In addition to that, we got a ton of ports from LPP 3DS apps to the Lua Player Plus Vita from him, including Raycast 3D, which is pretty cool. So what else did we get for the HENkaku scene? Well, game mods, translation patches for games like the English patch for IAVT, which is cool. I mean, I can play games like Project Diva without knowing Japanese and just figuring out the menus, but it may get complicated for specific stuff. We also got a save manager, which is always cool. Keeping backups of your saves in their unencrypted form is always a great idea. Really. I'm sure some of you watching this have lost their saves randomly, the game corrupted the save for whatever reason, and some of you may have had a backup that you could restore. In fact, that happened to me in the 3DS anyway. So, thank you Save Manager, SVDT and JKSM. You've saved my Pokemon Go save a couple of times. Not Pokemon Go save, was that what I said? My Pokemon save from when it got corrupted. Did I really say Pokemon Go? Anyway. Enough of that. There's one final major thing that got released this year, and that would be the Adrenaline ECFW. For those that don't know what this is a hack for the PSP emulator included with the PS Vita. This emulator is known as the EPSP, and the CFW for that EPSP is known as an ECFW. Adrenaline has pretty much everything a PSP custom firmware like Pro CFW has, but for the PS Vita's PSP emulator. So it's like TNV. However, unlike TNV and ARC, which don't work in 3.60, aka the only system firmware compatible with HENkaku, and Taihen, Adrenaline works with 3.60 and more than that, it was hacked from the native side. It also enables extra stuff. For example, it can be used to map the second analog stick that the original PSP didn't have in games with some effort. The developer, The Flow, has shown this with GTA Liberty City Stories as far as I remember. It's really cool. Another great thing about it is that we can run PSP backups, and we can also run a much larger um, library of PSP homebrew titles. Because, well, we could run PSP homebrew with VHBL, which doesn't require HENkaku to run, or an actual EPSP CFW. But although it did work in 3.63, it does work in 3.63, its compatibility is very limited, and a lot of homebrew doesn't even boot with VHBL. So, frankly, although the community is relatively small, I mean, the PS Vita didn't really sell all that well. The community itself is friendly, especially in comparison to other scenes. Wololo, which is the major board for this scene, is much friendlier and much more organized than, say, GBA Temp, which is much more childish, first of all. And GBA Temp is the main board for the 3DS scene. And now, for the 3DS. Before anything, I'd like to thank RollPika. Am I saying that right? Well, if I'm not, I apologize, but yeah. I'd like to thank him. He is a member of the GBA Temp staff, a supervisor, for banning the living meme of the community. Someone who had countless shitposts at GBA Temp. He seemed not to be willing to learn. He always spouted nonsensical stuff. He didn't care for grammar, punctuation, or just making sense in general. He always started every sentence with a lowercase and always with a hey, blah 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 blah, or whatever else he felt like using in every sentence that day. He was often rude, impatient, and unwilling to learn. He did get suspended a while back, but boy, am I glad he finally got banned for good. As is most of the community. It's just a shame that we've lost the one who gave us a lot of our memes. Oh well, they're forever stored in multiple PDF files containing screenshots of the topics he posted in. Okay, now for the news. So 33C3, or is it 33C3? I don't know. So it happened a few days ago. It was actually pretty cool to watch. I'm no expert in the matters that they discussed, but it was still a good learning experience. The boot ROM appears to have been hacked. That's cool. I don't expect a lot to change. I expect most to keep using ARM 9-load hacks even if something else comes around, but it is indeed a milestone. We also got Sound Hacks, which is the first, unless I'm mistaken, free, offline, homebrew launcher primary entry point. It's really cool. In addition to that, we got Fast Hacks. Now, Fast Hacks is an ARM11 kernel exploit. Not only is it way faster to run than Slow Hacks, and its Fast Hacks name, it also works up to 11.2, the current latest firmware. On the other hand, Slow Hacks only works up to 11.1, as it's been patched in the latest firmware. And the previous ones that weren't slow to run, aka SVC hacks, also known as Memchunk hacks 2.1, only works to till 10.7, and HENkaku 2 only works up to 10.3. So having fast hacks is pretty good. So SIG hacks is also pretty cool. I'll leave a link below for you to watch the presentation, just in case you are curious. As for other news, well, FreeShop's GitHub repository got DMCA'd, meaning it got taken down, as did all of its forks, including my own, which I made to translate the application into my own language, though I never ended up doing it myself. Someone else did, though. I suppose this was expected, as pretty much the only purpose of FreeShop was piracy, or it had a very limited use besides piracy, which I believe violates the DMCA. Someone at GBA Temp linked the section, was it 1201? So, in my opinion, yes, it does violate the DMCA, I suppose. And even if it doesn't, I very much doubt anyone will stand up for FreeShop. It's really shady. Even if Nintendo use an excuse to take it down, I very much doubt the project will be hosted again at GitHub. FreeShop still works though. It only won't be able to update itself, as the GitHub repository is down. It relied on some files that were hosted at GitHub. I don't expect that to come back under its previous form anyway. As for the last year, the year that passed, we've gone a long way. Was it during the 32C3 that we got HENkaku 2, the ARM11 kernel exploit that would allow us to downgrade all the way from 10.3 to 9.2? Really, I remember the first build of SysUpdater that surfaced online with the support for this exploit. It was a bomb, it exploded. Finally, 9.3 and above could downgrade and get custom firmware. Later, Safe SysUpdater came out with hash checking to ensure the integrity of the files. I even made a small script called Super Duper Octo Broccoli to check the integrity of the system updates files prior to the installation. While there are downgrade files, the installation files for the 9.2 firmware. After that, Play SysUpdater came out, and it was used for the now well-known guide, the guide known as the Holy Guide, the Noob Bible, the Custom Firmware Bible, the ARM9 Loader Hacks Bible, Playlex Guide, or the Playlex Guide as some called it. Really, they called it the Playlex Guide. After that, SysDowngrader came out and it replaced Play SysUpdater, and that's about it. The guide evolved a lot. We used to have to compile ARM9 load hacks and our own system-specific installer using the OTP, I believe, and quite a few bricked by using someone else's installer. Somebody else's? Yes. I remember that. It was the brick threads all over again. Every time an exploit for downgrading comes out, someone bricks and there's a huge thread of them complaining and all of that. Then we got a website that did it automatically, I believe, as long as the system-specific files were provided to it. Then the guide was shortened even further by no longer requiring an emunand or rednand, and CDR transfers came along, cutting the required time significantly. Then OTP-less ARM9 load hacks came out for the new 3DS. That was unfortunately eventually removed from the guide, as a very small percentage of users seemed to brick with no apparent reason, making the guide return to its previous tried and true CTR transfer based method. We also got the ability to boot ARM9 loader hacks without the SD card, first through the mini CFW powered ARM9 loader hacks or Shadow NAND, and later through full custom firmware loading from the CTR NAND. As far as I know, only Luma currently supports booting from CTR NAND, but yeah. Oh, also, RX tools became obsolete, as most of Gateway did too. People moved to RayNAND, then RayNAND, which would eventually be renamed to Luma 3DS. Another great thing that happened. Well, the ARM9 loader hacks only power user slash developer oriented patches based custom firmware, aka Corbinic, the custom firmware I currently use. It's pretty darn amazing. I've covered it in my custom firmware talk video. It's not for noobs though, so if you were inexperienced, there's nothing wrong with that. I was a noob once too, and I didn't start with Corbinic, though I did adopt it pretty soon into its lifespan as my main custom firmware. Car Corbinic gives control over every single thing to the user, and I myself like it. Some don't. Some like to have it automatically done and not have to think a lot when messing with the settings. Also, its payload or chain loader is just gorgeous. Sure, Luma 3DS now also has a similar menu, as opposed to the way it worked before, but still, Corbinix looks amazing. Aside from that, we got plenty of cool homebrew this year. Before, for example, loading DS titles in a 3DS required a flashcard, and truth be told, it still is what works best for now. However, a lot of advances have been made in loading DS titles from the SD card, and DS Bootstrap Loader, for instance. Although its current compatibility list is really small, and it does have a ton of issues, it is something that had never been done before, and I expect it to actually work well soon. TM! So that is it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button below and subscribe to my channel for more. I'll be making videos about several 3DS homebrew applications that came out, and the same for the PS Vita, so stay tuned for that. See ya!